Hey guys, it's METAGAMESGX here, and we're going to be going over more of my branded replays step by step and try to show you guys why I made certain plays and try to help you guys learn branded better, because I know a lot of the time there isn't a whole lot of like high level branded gameplay that's just out there on the internet. So I do want to at least show off some of these master rank games that we had from the beginning of this season and last season to show you guys what branded is all about. So if you guys want to leave another 150 likes down on this video, we will do another one of these gameplays. Let me know down below what you guys thought, and let's watch branded break a bunch of boards and play through hand traps. All right, so this is going to be the first gameplay. This is going to be against Tearlaments. So Tearlaments is actually one of those tougher matchups, I think, for branded, because it's actually one of the few decks that can genuinely play through your end board as a branded player with just engine. So this hand, I open up double Allure, Bestial Magnemite, Cartesia, and Quem. We're on a little bit different of a build this time. This was before I made last video. But this hand is going to obviously be very gassy, and it depends on what kind of non-engine I draw off the Allure, but, you know, between the Quem and Cartesia, we have full combo already. So in this hand, we're just going to go the Allure of Darkness here, I think, to try to, you know, bait some hand traps. Yes, we could go normal summon Quem, and then we would get impermed, and then going Allure would look a bit silly. So I draw the Albaz plus Brandon White. We banish the Albaz since it's the least important one out of the bunch, and so I'll go Allure again since we've passed the Droll check, and then we drew Fallen of Albaz plus Branded Retribution. So instead of just banishing the second Albaz at this point, you don't want to have all your Albaz banished, like especially within the first two steps of a turn. So I'm going to banish the Bestial Magnemite here, because Magnemite's not really that important of an extender in branded, at least going first, like it might be in some more like Bestial Fiendsmith decks. So here we continue with our game plan, because it didn't really change here of going normal summon Quem, except now we do have the Brandon White in hand in case we do get impermed, which does help us play through some hand traps, which is good. And the Quem is going to send the Shrouded Dragon. I send Shrouded Dragon here because we haven't resolved it yet, and a lot of the time you're just going to be getting Branded Fusion through the graveyard when you're not just searching it off of Kit or a Luber or hard opening it. I mean, now it's at 2, so it's a bit easier, but here we send the Shrouded because we can just use its graveyard ability to then go into the branded, to send either Branded Fusion or the Branded Retribution to the graveyard, which we drew. So we're going to have to deal with that when we get there. But now, since it ends an Albaz in graveyard, I can now special summon the Cartesia. So this kind of doubles. So I Shrouded off of the Quem is such a good send when you have Cartesia in rotation, because it doubles as Albaz, helps extend with the Cartesia, and then you can continue to do your line. So here I'm going to go into Cartesia effect here to fuse off the Albaz plus herself to go to the Grand Guignol, because I do have the Brandon White, which will be able to be a miracle fusion for the Fallen of Albaz in the graveyard. And here Grand Guignol is going to be able to be chain blocked by the Quem, which is very good in my opinion. Because Quem you don't really want, or Grand Guignol you don't want to get ashed, so anytime you can chain block it, it's very important in my opinion. So here I send the Bestial Saronir, and the Saronir is going to send the Branded Fusion to the graveyard, so that we can then now activate the Shrouded Dragon effect to then send the Branded Retribution from our hand to the graveyard. If you hard open the Branded Retribution, this is just kind of what you have to end up doing. You have to end up summoning the Shrouded by sending it to the graveyard. You just don't get the draw when it's in the graveyard, and you send it from the hand to the graveyard. So this is just fine in my opinion, because now this is an Albaz on field or in graveyard. So at the end of the day, you know, if I have to pass on this because I get ashed, you know, at least I have an Albaz on board for Cartesia to fuse off next turn, and that's why the Quem being here is great, because this sets up Cartesia for next turn. And then we go Branded Retribution to target the Branded Fusion, and the Branded Fusion is now going to be able to go through, except that it's going to get Ash Blossomed, so that is what it is. We have set up our board to play through Ash as best as possible, even though we didn't have the High Spirits access here, which is unfortunate. But we are going to be able to still play the game, because then we go Brandon White that we drew off of the Allure, which is why I went Allure, so I could play through these hand traps. I'm going to banish the Grand Guignol plus the Shrouded Dragon, which I did this because, or I'm not going to banish them. It doesn't banish. It only banishes when you use them from graveyard. So, and since they're on the field, they go to graveyard, which I felt like was just a better use of my material. So Grand Guignol can actually go to the graveyard and still use its effect while giving me a Mirror Jade in rotation. It's still pretty good. And then I have nothing in the end phase, unfortunately. Don't have an Albion. So you might think this is actually kind of a bad end board, but considering he's on 5 cards now and I have a Cartesia plus Quem and Mirror Jade plus an Albaz in graveyard, that's a guaranteed at least 4 interruptions between looping the Jade, so getting 2 banishes, and then getting the Rinbrum off of the Albaz. So let's just see what happens here. He goes special summon Unicorn, and when this happens, you kind of just have to remove it, because or else he will just search, and then you will have to deal with its banishing effect anyways in the extra deck. You know, I even going first, I just don't think it's like worth it for them to resolve it, because if it's pure cash and they get into cash theosis, you don't have the form of removal to, because you know these things are all attributes that don't go well into your branded deck. That's why a lot of people run Sprined in the extra deck for branded, because it's just an all-around great super poly target, especially for Kashtira. So here I'm going to send the Titanclad, which is definitely your best send off of Mirror Jade when you have an established end board or you are going second into an end board, because at the end phase we can obviously get an Albaz on the board, which can make another Mirror Jade. So we're going to bash the Unicorn, and at this point he decides to go Tier Limit Shiren, which tells me everything about this turn, like he's on Tier Limit. At this point I decide to chain the Cartesia, because this could be a misplay, because if he has Imperm, this could be a misplay, but I don't, you know, this is going to mill 3, so I don't know what's going to happen after the mills, and also this will chain or trigger the Grand Guignol. If you chain Cartesia to like a Bestial, or to an effect that would special summon on an effect monster, you can chain block your new Grand Guignol with its own effect, which I'll show you guys here, because he doesn't go Imperm at least. You know, if I get Imperm there, you know, and he still has follow-up, I might die there. I mean, I still have Quem at least. So I'm going to fuse off the Mirror Jade in the Cartesia for a second Grand Guignol, which is why we run the 2 Grand Guignol, so we can have these easy lines through hand traps. And then he goes into the Shiren and pitches the Snow, and then mills Tier Cash and Rhino Heart, which is pretty good, all things considered. You know, I think Tier Limit wants to see, obviously, their starters through the mills, but against Branded, I think if they mill things like Transaction Rollback and the Shufflers, it gets really hard to interact with Tier Limit. That's why they have such a good, you know, going second against your deck, because they have the ability to keep just playing through boards with their hand a bit, but then also their mills, we don't interact with them. Like Transaction Rollback, we literally can't interact with unless we have like Lad on board. So he triggers the Tier Cash, and then he goes Rhino Heart. I'm surprised he didn't like do it the other way around to like chain block the Rhino Heart, but then again, I don't have anything, so it doesn't matter. And then here I can go chain link 3 and 4 Grand Guignol. And then I can also, well, no, I'm going to go chain link 4 Quem, target the Mirror Jade, since that was obviously fused off, so I can get my second banish. And now I can go Grand Guignol in the graveyard as chain link 5, so I can keep the body of the other Grand Guignol on board, which I felt like was just a better option than just banishing the one on field, just in case, you know, I can try to survive if he plays through the rest of the stuff. So, you know, I know he's going to be going into Rhino Heart now, which is going to give him a guaranteed fusion. I want to have the banish on board for the Rhino Heart so that he doesn't get access to Kaleido Heart. You know, I could also just wait for the Kaleido Heart. You guys will see what happens. So here, we are going to summon the second Quem off the Grand Guignol, and then we can go the first Quem into the Mirror Jade here, and then I'm going to resolve by sending, or resolve the Grand Guignol, send any light or dark level 6 or higher monsters to the graveyard from extra deck or deck. I send the Rinbrum, because I mean there wasn't really a better send for me. Like if I had Garura or something, or like maybe even follow up, it would have been better, because Mirror Jade obviously gets me to the Rinbrum, but there really wasn't. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll just get the Rinbrum. Sometimes it's better to just send off the Grand Guignol than the Mirror Jade, in case you your Mirror Jade gets stopped for whatever reason. And so he gets the Rhino Heart, pitching the Rhino Heart in hand, and then he mills a Soliak, which gets him into more extenders, right? But then he's able to go into Rhino Heart 1 to send. So here he has access to Kaleido Heart at this point, since he has 2 Rhino Hearts in rotation. I was like genuinely debating on Mirror Jading here, but because of the fact he has 2 Rhino Hearts in rotation, I'm just going to wait for him to play the game. That's just like 100% correct. And then I do get to use the Quem on summon effect to send a follow-up piece to the end, to the graveyard, since it is on summon. Quem having 3 different relevant effects on every turn is really good. So I send the Branded Sword for follow-up. You know, Branded Sword is just so good to send off a Quem in a grind game, or like just to get follow-up or even a Mercurier. Like, if I had Mercurier banished at this point, I would be, like, I would literally win the game in, like, in a second. So he sends the Havness, searches Rhino Heart, which is interesting, because that just gives him another normal. I thought he might just, like, search... I guess Merly is banned, so he can't do that. And then he goes Havness effect, and I chain the sword to get the Fallen of Albaz back to the hand. And I'm just going to let him make whatever he makes, because I kind of just... if I banish something on the board, it's not going to do anything. So he makes the Kitkalos, which is interesting, because that obviously gets him another tier card. But at this point, I'm just going to straight up go Mirror Jade effect, because I need to get rid of the Kitkalos. Kitkalos has a really good effect to send itself to the graveyard mill 5, as everyone knows. So just like, it's a great Mirror Jade target. It's either that or Kaleido Heart, because Kaleido Heart also has a great graveyard effect. So obviously, if Kalos gets on the board before that, the Mirror Jade is just great into the Tier Limits boss monsters. And then he goes Scream, which can help him extend here off the Rhino Heart, but he's already gone Rhino Heart effect, so it doesn't do a whole lot. If he doesn't get any mills, he mills the Engraver plus Crime, which is pretty decent. If he had any other Light Fiends in graveyard, that'd just be a free extender. He does have the Snow, but obviously he's going to be able to go Crime now, because he does have the Kitkalos in rotation, which could get him back into the other effect. He does go Moon here, and this is the point where I go Rinbrum, because I could go Mirror Jade, but I think this is literally the most perfect. So yeah, I think this is the best spot to basically to Rinbrum, because it's a light. You could either make Mirror Jade, or you can make an Albion, because it's a light. When Tier Elements goes into Moon, this is just the best opportunity to Rinbrum. So I'm going to save my Mirror Jade in the pocket in case he has another card to use. But I go into Albion now with his Moon, and now he just scoops, because he doesn't have anything else. And that's just showing you how to make a layered end board with Branded through, multiple hand traps, and that's to show you guys how to make a layered board with Branded through Ash, and also the fact that Tier Element can be pretty tricky, and how to really pace yourself with your interactions. Also, make sure you're subscribed, leave a like down below, and click the join button today if you want to get a hold of my members only classroom, on top of checking out my Branded spreadsheet. Let's get into it. All right, so this is a game against Tenpai, where obviously he made me go first, and I brick essentially, but I'm still able to make a Verte line, and I want to show you guys what to do against Tenpai, and like how to maximize your brick hands. And this is why we love Verte and Master Duel, because any hand with Lubellion plus a monster you can normal summon equals Branded Fusion. So I go, obviously, use the Lubellion, search the Saronir, banish the Lubellion for the Saronir, and then I normal summon the Fubalos, and then I'm able to link off for the Verte and Anaconda, because all it requires is to affect monsters. I then am able to go Saronir effect, so I could possibly send something like a Branded Opening to protect my incoming Mirror Jade. He's going to go into Phantasme here, which is pretty crazy, so that tells me he's definitely on Tenpai too, because sometimes they run this. And then Phantasme is going to be able to give him a draw 2, discard 1. I send Branded Retribution for the follow-up, and now I'm going to go into Verte effect to send the Branded Fusion, and I chain the Magnuma once he has no response, so I can actually special summon it and get the search in the end phase to provide myself with another body for something like Droplet, and also just more card advantage, especially since, I have a brick hand, so you kind of have to maximize your card advantage, and you can't special summon after Verte's already used its effect. So I then am able to get the extra search off of Magnamut, and while going into the Mirror Jade, all off of the Verte, which sets up the Albaz in the graveyard plus a banish off of Mirror Jade, which means I can send the Rinbrum and have plenty of interruption. So I go the Magnuma effect, set the Forbidden Droplet before I go into the end phase. I feel like I was a little bit lucky having a Forbidden Droplet. I think that's what's also nice about Verte boards, is that Verte boards don't require that much, and you can still just like use your hand traps or use your quick play board breakers that you can set. So I search the Saronir for an additional interruption in the end phase, and then I pass to my opponent. I could have went Mirror Jade effect here to send a Albion. That's actually probably what I should have done, and I know he's on Tenpai, so if I'm able to catch him going Genroku, I basically blow him out immediately with the Mirror Jade. So that's why I didn't do that there, but honestly, in retrospect, I definitely could have used Mirror Jade effect to send the Albion and do my thing, because Albion then would get Branded Ren rotation, and then I could just make another Mirror Jade. So I think that overall is better card advantage. But then he goes into the void, so he draws a card, he has to discard everything. He then goes Feather Duster, so I guess the droplet doesn't really matter too much, but I do go droplet effect here, actually, to pitch the Saronir. So I'm kind of interested about this, so that I can put the Phantasme down. The effect isn't relevant, but I do want to put this Saronir in the graveyard to get opening in the graveyard. That was like, oh yeah, that was my theory right there, because opening at least, you know, because I know it's Tenpai. If he just goes like Dark Hole Raigeki, I'm dead. And now we see him go normal summon Pydra so that he can get the Sangan summoning. And when this happens, and you have Rinbrum in rotation, you can very easily pop the Sangan plus the Pydra. So here I'm just gonna go Mirror Jade to get rid of the Pydra, and then I'll go Rinbrum effect to target the Fallen of Albaz. He already has the Phantasme on board, so I'm able to do this quite easily. Since it is a dragon, I can fuse off with it with Fallen of Albaz and discard the Branded Sword, which is really good advantage since I have a Rinbrum in the graveyard that I could just return, and now I go Branded Retribution to get back the Branded Fusion in case I want to end up going into Lubellion. And if not, just for the follow-up, but obviously here I could just straight up make the Chaos Star Source and save the discard. So that's what I'm going to likely do, and I'm going to go into the Chaos Star Source. Chaos Star Source, pop the back row. You want to do that before they activate the Sangan summoning, because I've had it happen before where they activate Sangan and then you go like Boral pop on it and then they chain Droplet, or if you have like they go Field Spell and then you have Lad and then they chain Droplet essentially. So you want to like try to get Chaos or the Sangan summoning to not even hit the board essentially for the most part. And you always, that's why you need cards like Chaos Star Source, and like I think Lad is very good into Tenpai if they don't just have a God Hand too. So he Perulia's me here, which is interesting. And this is the Sky Striker version. The Sky Striker version is definitely harder to play against for the normal branded deck because the Sky Striker cards play through very easily. The Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, because of the quick play nature of like Hornet Drone and then also Widow Anchor. So he's going to go Hornet Drone to make a token that he's going to be able to make a Kagari and then loop the Engage. This is what this deck does in order to get more card advantage while breaking your board so that they can get more Tenpai cards. But Tenpai is at this point where all their cards are really at 1. A lot of them are at the very least, so it's kind of easy to interrupt. He draws the Ultimate Slayer to spin back the Mirror Jade, which gets him another draw for the most part. And he's probably just trying to draw into extenders. He draws another Ultimate Slayer, which I guess will trigger the Entis, which Entis will then be able to pop the Magnamut. So at this point, it's really just like if he has Kaiman, he has Kaiman and he wins, but he did not draw the Kaiman, so he goes main 2. And that shows you like what you kind of have to do with that against Tenpai. You have to maximize your interruptions so that they have to use the most card advantage and then actually hit them where it hurts, where they actually, you know, when he went Field Spell, that's when I used all my interruptions essentially. And now he ends on nothing because he used Into the Void, that's why I don't like Into the Void. I feel like it's just a really bad card. He could have potentially even like ended on something else, but I don't know. The Sky Striker Tenpai deck is just such a glass cannon. I have the Brand Fusion hand, and now I drew the Foolish Burial to get Tragedy in rotation, normal summon the Aluber. I love having Tragedy in rotation. I still love cards like Foolish Burial for that reason, because they are very good for just the grind game. You know, next turn I could just banish the Foolish Burial, and then I go back into the Chaos Star Source that he so kindly spun back for me, and then he chains the Widow Anchor. I just wanted to get rid of his back row before I tried to resolve this Branded Fusion, just in case it was something relevant. He's able to take the Chaos Star Source because of the Widow Anchor having more than 3 spells in the graveyard. But at this point, I don't really care because he has no real interruption. I go into the Albion, sending the Lubellion for the classic Light and Darkness Dragon Lord line. And then I banish the Anaconda in the graveyard so I can skip the banish or the discard off of the Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, which is what I love doing in the grind game with Mirror Jade. If I already just have an extra deck card that I don't need anymore in the graveyard, I can just skip the Lubellion, and now he scoops, and that's just kind of how you maximize your card advantage against Tenpai while being able to, you know, withstand their boards. I think if your Rinbrum is your best friend against Tenpai for the most part, because they could board break you all you want, but if you have Rinbrum in rotation with an Albaz at the end of the day, you can still make a Chaos Star Source, which pops their whole field spell. Also, if you run the Alba Lenatus, you can literally just wait until the battle phase if you have a Rinbrum and then just Rinbrum their whole board off with a Albaz and Alba Lenatus. You have to watch out if they go into the Meteor Dragon, the Odd Eyes Meteor Dragon or whatever, or the Transcend Drake. Somehow they end up making that before battle phase. Because they will end up turning off the Rinbrum in battle phase. So you have to be careful if they have a lot of gas. You can't wait until the battle phase on the Rinbrum, but they usually telegraph how they're gonna do their turn when that happens, and it doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, definitely just prioritize, Rinbrum for those situations, and then, the importance of layering your end board so you can play through interruptions and withstand board breakers. Super important, Branded. This is my current deck list, as you guys saw the other day. I do appreciate all the support. We could talk about this deck list a little bit more. I'll just do that a little bit with each video. Like, I really do like Allure. We saw that in the one video. I think Allure is just great consistency, and it allows you to run like Double Tragedy or Double Mercurier, which are, in my opinion, is amazing for the grind game. I personally like Double Mercurier because Branded Sword, as you guys saw in both games, just comes up for extra card advantage. It gives you a discard when you need one, whether it's off a Super Poly Droplet or, your Fallen of Albaz, which is a part of every one of your end boards through the Rinbrum line, or just, summoning off a Quem or something like that. Obviously, I think Tenpai is a lot weaker now. I think Tearlament's a little bit on the weaker side compared to most of the meta decks, but I think that, it shows that the Bystials are quite relevant, I think, too, because of all the Fiendsmith decks. Like, still maxing out on the Saronir. I'm right now going 1 Quem, 2 Cartesia, because there isn't a ton of nib for me to justify the Quem, and I also think that the Cartesia, I love it at 3. I just had to make some concessions. This is quite a tight main deck. Like, I would have to start changing some ratios if I want to fit anything else in. Running the 1 deployment, 1 opening because of Verte lines. You guys saw Verte was just very good. Foolos is great because you can normal summon, link off for Verte. You could go High Spirits, send this, and then get Kit. Like, I was testing with my friend last night, and they were so sick when they saw me go High Spirits into Foolos, right? Like, it's not bad, but if you have like 2-card combo, that's really good too, because it gets you Rinbrum, and which will always be live. If you have 2-card combo, you'll probably have an Albaz in rotation somehow. And I still do love Foolish Burial and Gold Sarks. I think these cards are just some of your best 1-card starters, and when you're running 60 cards, you need to maximize your 1-card starters, especially when I'm only on 1 opening, 1 deployment. I've also thought about running 2 Brandon Red over the Brandon White. We might do that in the future, and then maybe run a Guardian Chimera, but this extra deck's even tighter than the main deck. I think the Proskenion is like basically the only flex piece. This could be a double Grand Guignol, as you guys saw in game 1. I think double Grand Guignol is quite actually good and probably just better. But you do want something to summon off the double Grand Guignol besides just like the 1 Quem. So if I do that, I think I'll have to make like probably 2 Quem at that point, and we'll figure that out. So if you guys like this video, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what your favorite part of the video was. Which gameplay did you like more? Did you learn anything new? Once again, guys, subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. Leave a like. It helps the algorithm. I really do appreciate. Click the join button on YouTube to become a channel member and get all the great perks that you get for being one of my channel members to help support and make great content. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. I love you guys. Bye now.